I think I have everything I need. I'm surprised there's been no cats that have come up to say hi. But I suppose it is what it is. Nope. Alright. Well, let's go live. Have a good night, Kragar. And let's bring up our workshop screen and turn on some atmospheric music here. Okay. Well, this next and really the last part of our workshop should be pretty easy to get through, given everything that we had just reviewed before. And if you all have questions along the way, please do ask, and I will be happy to go back. I will repeat things, I'll answer them, but I want to make sure that it's not just me talking. I mean, hopefully, my voice has returned, and I'm grateful for that. If any of you are here and you didn't know, I spent pretty much the entire month of September fighting pneumonia, and it was pretty terrible. Still have a bit of a teeny cough and a little bit of maybe like a little bit of strain in my voice. But hey, I'm certainly feeling a lot better. I'm well on the mend, and I'm happy and in a very fun mood. So let's find out now for Nick, anyone else who's hanging. Oh, you know what? There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up to share. Let me make sure I'm finding it real quick, because this was over on that wasn't there. Oh, and that wasn't the right screen. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So this was the post that Delport Breckland had shared, which is a lot of what we had just talked about, except it fits on a business card. There's a way to do the math that is, quick and dirty. But this is another way to go through and understand how you can power. This is like a Raspberry Pi for your monsters, right? If it's a business card size, it explains it. Don't feel like statistics and I didn't do so well in that class or whatever. If you accept that the person who did this did it accurately, and you can see the trends, the words will make sense. And the math, you'll see, will end up working. Especially with as loosey-goosey as challenge rating is fully written out in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Here's a way that you can take these concepts and get it out there. So there's a lot of fun things to consider, especially if math is your thing, and if not, don't worry. It'll take you through it step by step such that you can understand it. But here's the full page version, and here's the business card version. Should you want to make some monsters on the fly, but you don't have your core rulebook handy. So these are good things to consider here. All right, now we're going to go back to our core rulebooks. Speaking of those, so if you're playing along at home, make sure you have your Dungeon Master's Guide open. We are on page 283. If you don't have a DMG, please support your friendly local game store. Go out and get a copy. It's a great book. Even if you're just a player of D&D, I would urge you get a DMG as well. There's a lot of fun things to consider. Like sugar-free pumpkin spice almond milk. It's good stuff. And it's very guilt-free. Why have a whole cup of sugar in liquid form when I could save it up for a brownie or something later? But instead I get a very good taste. Anyway, we're not here talking about pumpkin spice almond milk. We're here talking about adding class levels to monsters. You can use the rules in Chapter 3 of the Player's Handbook to give class levels to a monster. For example, you can turn an ordinary werewolf... Oh, well, there we go. Speaking of monsters, hello, ma'am. Are you feeling lovely and gorgeous? Are you feeling meowsy? Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. All right. You can turn an ordinary werewolf into a werewolf with 4 levels of the barbarian class. Such a monster would be expressed as werewolf, 4th level barbarian. Start with the monster's stat block. The monster gains all the class features for every class level you add, with the following exceptions. The monster doesn't gain the starting equipment of the added class. Although you as the DM, if you want it to, of course. For each class level you add, the monster gains 1 hit die of its normal type, which is based on its size, ignoring the class's hit die progression. So, medium-sized creatures are a D8 hit die, and if you give it 4 levels of barbarian, you're only adding that 4d8 of hit points, not 4d12, which is what barbarians get per the class progression of hit points. The monster's proficiency bonus is based on its challenge rating, not its class levels. Once you finish adding class levels to a monster, feel free to tweak its ability scores as you see fit. For example, raising the monster's intelligence score so that the monster is a more effective wizard. And make whatever other adjustments are needed. You'll need to recalculate its challenge rating as though you had designed the monster from scratch. Depending on the monster and the number of class levels you add to it, its challenge rating might change very little or increase dramatically. For example, a werewolf that gains 4 barbarian levels is a much greater threat than it was before. In contrast, the hit points, spells, and other class features that an ancient red dragon gains from 5 levels of wizard do not increase its challenge rating. Simply because that ancient red dragon is already more powerful than any 5th level wizard could hope. Now, being 5 levels of wizard would give it a couple more, tools in its tool belt, but it won't necessarily make it a more difficult fight. It'll just be a different fight against an ancient red dragon. So let's do this. Seems pretty straightforward, just a couple paragraphs. Because we know how challenge rating works, let's add something, okay? So we have our piece of paper. Ooh, piece of paper. And our player's handbook, as well as our monster manual. All right. Nick, since you're here, I'm going to call on you. I'm going to pick on you in this workshop. That's what you get for sitting at the front of the class. I hope you're ready. I would like you to type exclamation point 1D100. No spaces or anything, just exclamation point number 1, letter D as in doggo, number 100. $53. Oh, it's pretty average. Oh, we're going back to demons again, huh? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 here. All right, Nick, I need an exclamation point 1D9 from you. Two. Ah, a Barlgura. Okay. So we are going to take a Barlgura. And for those of you playing along at home and you have your monster manuals out, this is on page 56. Now, we're going to give it class levels in something. In what? Let's find out. So we have our manual of player character golems that are open. And we are going to we're only going to stick with one class for right now, but you can extrapolate that to a multi-classed creature. All right. Who else is hanging out here tonight? Nick, you got us going. And if other people are being shy, then I'll keep calling on you. But is there someone else out there in the audience who'd like to roll to help us out with this exercise? Oh, crickets. Cricket, well, and drums in the background, too. Drums from the deep. All right, Nick. Everyone else in the workshop is being very shy right now. Or they're probably watching Critical Role or something. I would like you to type exclamation point 1D12 in chat, Nick. Oh, well, hello, Rip Artist, and hello, Lord Takor. Hi, JK Hunter. All right, well, if y'all are hanging out, I'm calling on people in the workshop to help out. Lands on a 12. All right. So. Oh, although, Lord, hang on. We're not going to take that die roll because I didn't call on you for that. Nick, you have to hold on because there's a cooldown period on the D12 roll. So, Nick, I called on you to do it. So you need to just wait a moment, and then we'll have you roll again. But I'll call on people specifically for the rolls. No, we're not using that 12. Lord rolled that, and I didn't call on Lord for it. We're keeping things in order. Nick, I want you to give it a try now. And then Lord, you can roll the next one, but it's not going to be a D12. So hold on tight. Nope, it's fine. I'm not upset or anything. All right, lands on a 3. We're going to be adding Cleric levels. Now, Lord Takor, I would like you to type exclamation point 1d8. Which kind of a cleric are we making our Barlgura? Seven. A Trickery cleric. And now I would like to know how many levels of Trickery cleric are we going to be giving it? Rip Artist, I would like you to type exclamation point 1D100 into chat. It lands on an 83. We're adding 17 levels of Trickery Cleric. Oops. Okay. Now, we are going to be juggling our 2 books. Primarily, we need to extract. We need to extract some information from the cleric. Before that, our hit point gains are going to be 17 times, and we go to the Barlgura. This is a large creature, so it has D10s for hit die, and so we would be adding we would be adding 17 times 6 if you want to take the average. If you want to maximize it, you can as well. That's up to you as the DM. Do you usually roll? And if so, you might as well just take the half plus 1. Or if you want a possibly even tougher Barlgura, then you increase that. You increase that more. Yeah, average is usually what people do here. So we're adding 102 hit points to our... Hi, Urian, good to see you. To our Barlgura by giving it 17 levels of Trickery Cleric. Now, over in the player's handbook, let's find out what we get. Ooh. Plenty of spell slots, including 9th level spells. And if we're going to be calculating damage per round, our 9th, 8th, and 7th level spells might be what we use to calculate this. So we're getting spell slots, including 7, 8, and 9. The armor, I mean, we have natural armor of 15. If you want to increase the armor of our Trickery Barlgura from 15 to something else, we normally get light and medium armor and shields, and I don't believe Trickery Cleric gives us heavy armor proficiency, just intrinsically itself. If you want to put a Barlgura in plate mail, you can always do that. You don't need a class or a subclass for it. Well, we get the capstone ability. All right, so it's still just medium armor at most, including a shield. So maybe if we wanted to have a shield, we could do that. So if naturally we have a 15 AC, Dex is +2, which can maximize it. But that's not too bad as it is. Well, I don't know. I think that might be able to go up to 17 if we do, I think it was splint mail. Since medium armor can account for half. It can have a +2 to its dex. So let's do this. Let's put it in some medium armor, and we're gonna give it a shield. Remember, if you have multiple sources of armor, use whichever one is highest. It doesn't stack. There's not 2 dice rolls to get through the tough armor, then the tough hide. You just take the higher of whichever's there. So we're going to we're going to increase AC to 19. So that's 17 armor, 2 from a shield. We'll get to the spell list in just a moment, because we're going to need that to calculate our offensive challenge rating. Now, if we come back here, I'm not really seeing something here that is like Invoke Duplicity. It gives you a tactical advantage, but CR doesn't count tactics in that regard. Cloak of Shadows, turning invisible, I'll have to double check, but I don't think turning invisible, especially at this level, is going to affect challenge rating all that much. What would is our Divine Strike. At 8th level, you gain the ability to infuse your weapon strikes with poison, a gift from your deity. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you cause the attack to deal an extra 1d8 poison damage. And when you reach 14th level, the damage increases to 2d8. So, on average, that is going to be 4.5 plus 4.5 is 9. So our plus DPR, if it's weapon based, is going to be a +9. Now, our spells, because we average it out, our spells may be far and above what this is. Or, if we say, well, our Barlgura isn't going to be casting damage spells. Can cast 9th level spells, but maybe support spells. And so we actually do have to rely on the melee attacks and not spell attacks. But we can see everything that we've gained from being a cleric that would have an impact on challenge rating, with the floating the possibility of invisibility. Stronghold, hello, welcome. And if we want to bump up any of our stats, we can do that too. So we're going to come over to our Barlgura. There is some innate spell casting here. Based off of wisdom, the spell save DC is 13. And that is going to be based on... Boop, 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 boop. We're going to come up here. Yeah, invisibility. Like from an imp. Invisibility does not have any sort of effective consideration for challenge rating. So it's DC 13. And so actually the save DC is lower, but that's probably because other aspects of it are higher for a CR5 monster. So our wisdom is a +2. Yeah, our proficiency bonus for being a CR5 creature is 3. So that's 5 plus 8. That floating 8 that goes into all save DCs would make it a 13 in that case. So welcome, Stronghold. We're talking about adding class levels to monsters and seeing the effect that it has on their challenge rating. So in this case, if we have such a divinely touched Barlgura, we could increase its wisdom. You don't have to, but if we're talking about giving it some like half plate to wear and a shield and other things that can come along with having 17 levels of a Trickery Cleric, maybe this is something that we bump up as well. In this case, well, we'll see the effect it has. We can add stats later and see if it goes back and adds anything. So its normal damage output, the Barlgura makes 3 attacks, 1 with its bite and 2 with its fists. So we have 11, 9, 9. That's 29 DPR, as this is mainly just a big beatdown demon. It does have the spells, some spells here. Entangle, Phantasmal Force. These are spells that are not going to replace its attacks for purposes of calculating damage per round. Actually, let's see if we can recreate it in the calculator. So let's reset this. We start off with an armor class of 15. I'm going to keep this up and scoot it a little bit off camera here, just to make the back and forth easier. Its constitution is a 16. And we have a large creature. Its attack bonus is currently a +7, and its DPR is 29 that we calculated. And it doesn't primarily use saves right now for its offenses. We're building the basic Barlgura here. It does not have any vulnerabilities. It does have resistances and immunities. It has damage resistance to cold, fire, and lightning, and a damage immunity to poison, as well as a condition immunity to being poisoned. It cannot fly and deal damage, so we're not worried about that. And its save proficiencies are are +3. All right. Let's see. It is reckless. Does that affect anything? Relentless would, but reckless does not. So we're not going to worry about that reckless feature of the Barlgura. The book has this as a challenge rating 5 creature. Let's see if the calculator agrees. There we go. So this must have rounded it up to a 6. Wait, why does it have effective hit points of 136? And an effective AC. Oh, that's right. That went up because of the immunities. Monster's HP is multiplied based on the resistances and immunities it has to common damage types. Non-magical, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing chief among them. Does resistances? Okay, no, that doesn't change. So yeah, resistances and immunities does it. So it gives it effective a little higher. It was probably a round up condition, but this is our Barlgura as we've built it. Now, pardon me. Let's see what happens when we add 17 levels of Trickery Cleric to our Barlgura. I'm going to drag this over like I did the other thing here, so it'll be partially off screen. If we just stick with its melee damage, okay? Let's pretend it doesn't use spells in combat like the normal Barlgura does. We are adding an extra +9 on average. So our DPR, our damage per round, is going up to 38. Our armor class is increasing to 19. Pardon me, to 19. And then we're also getting more hit points. We're getting on average 102 more. Although, if we just count it as D10s, we can just add 17 levels plus the 8 with which we begin. So that's 25, and we could do it that way. 25d10. Now, we didn't change Constitution, and we didn't change its size. All we've done is thrown in what we've calculated, and if we're excluding using damaging spells. So now it's just a tougher beat-em-up Barlgura that has many more spells, just support spells or tactical spells, things that are not playing into our damage calculations. And let's go up and see what happens. We now have a challenge rating 14 Barlgura. If we take 1 out of the book and we add 17 levels of Trickery Cleric to it. Now, let's see what happens if our Barlgura, and by the way, that's no stat changes either. That's if we keep, it doesn't have a +5 strength or a greater constitution or anything like that. But if you want to play around with it, a calculator is good for that live feedback. Now let's take a look at what might change if we go for a casting Barlgura. And we need to know our damaging spells for levels 7, 8, and 9 as a cleric. Because when you're calculating this stuff out, you should presume your highest potential and most likely scenario damage output. There's a very good chance this Barlgura is having none of your party's shenanigans and is going to want to wipe them off the map at all costs. So let's see, we have at 9th level, with just the basic cleric out of the player's handbook, we have Astral Projection, Gate, Mass Heal, and True Resurrection. So none of those are damaging spells. So that is not going to add to DPR. Let's go to 8th level. Anti-magic field, control weather. Earthquake, I believe, can add damage. Let's make a note about that. So let's say it opens up with Earthquake. It then gets a 7th level spell. Symbol, Resurrection, Regenerate. So we could go for something like Regenerate. That would affect its that could affect its DPR because it has effectively more hit points. But instead, we're going for damage. Well, we'll look at both to see how that looks. We're gonna go Firestorm and Regenerate. And then, remember, this is averaged over 3 rounds. What do we have at 6th level? Hero's Feast, Heal, Harm. Okay. Let's start with... Whoop, I passed by it. Earthquake. Da-da-da-da. I guess that's some falling damage. So that's not going to be a lot unless something falls on it. Okay, well, yeah, so let's say a structure falls down. We'll take that as the damage from Earthquake. On a failed save, the creature takes 5d6 bludgeoning damage. Pardon me. All right. So we have 5d6. Firestorm. $7d10. And then harm. Remember, the damage type is not going to be relevant for purposes of calculating this. Unless, for some super specific reason, you know it would. But in general. 14d6. Yep, that's probably what the opener would be, Nick. Now, these are going to require saves, and as such, our save proficiency is going to be higher, because instead of just making a brute and putting armor on it and still having it punch, we're making it someone who is a purposeful, strong, willful caster. So let's see. 3.5. That's 3.5 times 5. So 7, 14, 17.5. Which, if you want to round up or down, that's your call. If we wanted to round it up to 18, we could. Then we have 5.5 times 7. So that's 11, 22, 33, 39.5. So that could be 40. And then we have our 14 d6s, so that's 3.5. So that's 7 times 7 is 49. Now, there's a lot of other benefits to Earthquake, the knocking prone, and all that other stuff. So this isn't the highest damage dealing one. And so we might even be able to go down and say, oh, you know what? There might be a 6th level spell that would deal more damage. But let's say that this is a final boss, right? This is a Barlgura channeling these Trickery powers. And we're going to open up with an Earthquake. It's going to have all these other cool effects we want in our story. Let's stick to this. Although, real quick, Regenerate. Let's see what Regenerate would give us around the level of what we're looking at, because we can always swap that for Firestorm. There we go. Regenerate. Target regains 48 plus 15 hit points. And for the duration of the spell, the target regains 1 hit point at the start of each of its turns, 10 hit points each minute. The target's severed body members, if any, are restored after 2 minutes if you have the severed limb and hold it to the stump. Okay. So it's a big straight up heal. So that itself is not necessarily going to be anything big. But regenerate 1 hit point at the start of each of its turns. So it's regenerate 1. And we can still see how it would play in. Yeah, this spell does not scale up. All right, let's go back to our damage calculator. And we say, all right, we have... oh, all of these are area of effect. When calculating area of effect, on average, you're going to be hitting two party members. If for some specific reason you think it would be more or less, that's fine. For general calculations, we are going to be dealing... we're going to be dealing 36 damage with Earthquake, 80 damage to the party with Firestorm, and we're going to be dealing 98 damage with Harm. Oh no, I'm sorry, Harm is a single target. That's just 49. Unless I misread that. I believe that... I believe that Harm is just a single creature. I'm going to double check in case there's some... You can cast it as a wider net that I forgot about. Yeah, on a creature, you can see within range. Yep, so this is just a straight up that. So we have 36. We have 116, 156, 165 divided by 165 divided by 3. Quick math here. Sorry, everyone. If I had my piece of paper out, that would be what it is here. 165 divided by 3 is 55. So in our opening 3 rounds, on average, we are dealing 55. Or 55 if you prefer. 55 damage per round. That is a lot greater. That is a lot greater here than our 38. So we're going to bump this up to 55. And we are going to indicate that the damage output is more dependent on save-based abilities. We're going to click this. And so in this case, it auto-filled it upwards because we have a CR. I think it was like because we had our CR 15. But anyway, we could set this into something else if we wanted to. If we wanted to adjust the wisdom. In this case, we have a challenge rating 15 creature. And we say, you know what? Maybe this should be an 18. Because it is a cleric, it should be better at this. So we're going to bump that up to 18. And we'll say, we'll make sure the wisdom and maybe it has a magic item that fills in the gap. We're looking at the final numbers. So everything else is the same. It's still wearing the armor, the shield. It's still large, everything else. But now we went into where we're dropping 3 big spells, and that is our DPR. And we come up, and it has now gone up to a challenge rating 16. Challenge rating 16. Not too shabby, huh? Now, if we drop this, so we have 36 plus 49, so that's 55, that's 85, plus it's, if we go with a regeneration instead, so we have 36 plus 49, plus then we just do a normal attack of 38 for our opener. Maybe it's not another spell because we're going to work, actually, if we're working regenerate in there. But maybe it cast regenerate on itself at the beginning. Anyway, we're going to play with a regenerate 1. It probably won't have too big of an effect. So let's just say it does get the normal multi-attack in for that. So that is 36, 49, 38, 123 divided by 3 is 41. So we're going to drop our DPR to 41. We're still using saves because the majority of our damage is coming from them. But we're going to come down here and give it regeneration 1 as per that spell. And da-da-da-da. We're at a challenge rating 15. It brought it down a little bit. 1 hit point. So we lost the DPR, and the 1 hit point we're getting back, isn't too big of a deal. If you wanted to count the average we would get back from the heal up front as hit points, that could be possible, and you just dump that into the static amount of hit points up here. So you see there's ways that you could play with the math. You can massage the numbers. And you can go through and fine-tune or finer-tune things as much as broad statistical averages in a combat would allow. Yep, there is a regenerate feature. Now, we made it as per the spell regenerate, which is you just regenerate 1 hit point. And so in this case, yeah, we took an already tough creature, a CR5 Barlgura, and we definitely turned it into Boss Barlgura by giving it 17 levels of Cleric. It has the Capstone subclass ability, and this might be the big bad evil guy of your story. And it brought this encounter up to a challenge rating 17 encounter. But remember, challenge rating has its limits. It won't take into consideration things outside of raw damage, damage ability, and the ability to be damaged. So tactics, if we added in something like we knew that the temple in which this fight was going to take place was going to deal, it's a Trickery Cleric. I don't know. It's a bunch of lightning zapping around, trying to like create a strobe effect and fool people. And the fight, like the arena itself, is just going to natively deal 10 damage per round because there's electrified stuff everywhere. Then let's take off regeneration. Let's go back to our 55. Except we're going to make this 65 because we have to include that automatic damage per round that is being output by this encounter. So adding in this environmental effect, we're up to a CR 17 because now it's 65 DPR. And all we did was give an effect to the battlefield. And we changed nothing else about the monster other than there's a latent electricity field or a poison field or something, right? Yeah, so CR is a good starting point to consider. It's an area to work out from, but is definitely not the end-all be-all kind of a metric. And you can have fun with this. If you have a party... oh, you know what? We did in a prior year when we had our October Muster Workshop. We made a Cormyrean War Wizard Flump. And that saw a big boost from, I think it might have only been a couple levels of wizard. Because flumps themselves are not especially powerful creatures. And when you give them, it might have been like 6 levels or 7 levels of wizard, that can help do a lot. Pardon. Jeez. Ghost. We're gonna go back. And if you say, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna focus on the 3 rounds of damage output, but I know it has mage armor going into it. Well, its armor class is gonna be higher, and its damage output will be higher. And now what you have in your story is a flump that kind of up to the party with a fun little wizard hat or a cloak, and it begins to cast Cormyrean war magic on them. This is not a challenge rating 1/8 flump. I think it went up to a CR 3. Oh, I'm trying to remember. That stuff, if you're an archivist on our Discord, I believe you can go back into the prior workshops and look for it. But adding some levels of wizard to a flump brought it way out of challenge 1/8, such that it was a fun. It could be a fun low level encounter for a low level party, right? 6 levels of Cormyrean War Wizard on your flump. And Diadem says you can't trust a flump. So hopefully you see how this works. Now, if you want to do it pen and paper style, all this stuff, the math itself isn't super duper difficult. If you do it manually, it could take a bit of time. That's why calculators like this are very handy, and they allow you to drop in approximations of things, or to say, you know what, I was really gunning for a CR 15 encounter, but with everything that I have in it, it's only a CR 13. How can I make this spicy? All right, let's add some spice. What happens if I give it a damage transfer ability and 20 extra hit points? No, that's not enough. What happens if I increase its 2 hit by 1? Oh, there we go. I'm so close. And then we'll give it Undead Fortitude, because I think that would be thematic for this storyline encounter. Boom. That might have been exactly what you needed to approximate what you could use for the encounter that you're planning. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this... it might seem odd if most of you have never looked under the engine of Dungeons and Dragons. This is what you encounter. It's not impossible, and if you haven't played with these numbers or concepts, it might feel a little foreign, but don't let that dissuade you from trying this out. Try and make cool and unique monsters yourself. And in fact, that is what we're going to end up doing in tomorrow's stream. With your all's help, we are going to be randomly generating a monster from scratch. We're going to roll up its monster type. We're going to roll up its expected challenge rating. We're going to randomly roll up a lot of these aspects to create a custom monster. And if you want to see the monsters we've made in the past, they're in those past years too. The Weremoose was a fun one. The Hinky Punker. Do you all have any questions of what we went over or a story to tell? You're absolutely welcome to share that stuff. In fact, real quick, because I finished this off and I still have a little bit of a dry throat from all the talking we're doing. Again, I'm getting over pneumonia, so I got to make sure I'm keeping things going here. Let me get up and grab a drink real quick, and I'll be right back, okay? Hold on tight.